Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson, with more than 2 decades in the sales industry. I've seen it, heard about it, lived through a lot of it, and now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people on the planet, the sales community. Why? Because sales is the greatest job on earth. It literally gives you a chance to write your own paycheck, create the life you want. And more than anything, it is filled with absolutely hilarious stories and great times. And today's guest, someone I'm very, very excited to have on. He is a serial entrepreneur. He's a guy that I know loves to shoot it straight, especially for all the nonsense talkers there on the internet. He's my friend, Mr. Jacob Stahler. What's up, brother?
Not enough.
Well, man, I know you're a busy-ass dude. You're always running and taking care of things. You've got multiple, entities that you're responsible for. And more than anything, man, you are always taking the time to pour into your community, sharing value, shooting the shit. Like I said, man, I love you got like some stories we'll tell about some shit talking that you do. But more than anything, first and foremost, man, I want to know your craziest sales story.
So I actually told this the other day. I have two, but I'll pick the one that's probably more relevant to people that are listening. I was in Chicago helping build a national bankruptcy law firm. And the whole thing was set up on payment plans, right? Because most people that need to file bankruptcy are in financial duress. And so we have them on payment plans. Sometimes it's $10 a month. Sometimes it was $5 a month, like whatever they wanted to pay. Because the business model that we built was basically around tax time, everybody's going to piff out. And then new leads come in, start the cycle over. But as long as they're paying you, they're in the system, right? Mm-hmm. So around Christmas time, we would start getting phone calls of people that wanted to cancel their payment plan. It's Christmas time. They wanted money. They wanted to buy gifts. They wanted to do whatever, people do around Christmas time. And they would find out that they don't get a refund because once we enroll them into the program, there's work that's done. And so the money that they're putting into the program gets assigned to, building them a file, like all this kind of stuff. So they would get pissed. And if I was like walking past and I could hear the argument, I would tell them to, meet the phone and tell them to hang on, they'll get a supervisor. I would take the headphone off of their head and just like put it on and stand at their cue. And I'd take the phone call and I'd be like, all right, so I got filled on what was going on. You're looking to cancel. You have presents to buy, this, that, and the third. It's like middle of November at this time. And I think the woman had paid maybe $60 in. Like, we're not even talking tank of gas. And she's just going off. And I just stood there and listened to her talk. And eventually, she started slowing down because she started getting tired. And I would kind of lean in and I would be like, okay, so if I understand what you're saying, right, I'm running through her issues that she's going through. And then I was like, but on the other side of this, like, you still need to file a bankruptcy. And she'd be like, yeah. And I'm like, are you doing any like gift exchanges, things like that? Well, yeah, me and my sons and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, do your sons know that you need to file bankruptcy to clear medical debt and all this kind of stuff? And she'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, if you were to tell them that if we can get you paid in full, we can get you filed before Christmas, and you could actually start reestablishing credit cards and stuff like that before Christmas. It's like you could literally go and buy what you need if we can get you docked filed in court. And she was like, well, I don't know. And I was like, calling them three-way. Like, I'll run them through the whole process. And like, they watched me piff people out left and right like that.
Come on.
And they were like, why would you ask for a brother or a son or whatever? I'm like, I mean, if they're obviously in a shitty situation, their family's going to know about it, especially if they're elderly, because they're very keyed in, to their mom's lifestyle. And like, it would take 30 minutes or 35 minutes for me to get a piff. And I would hang up and like people would just stare at me. They'd be like, what just happened? You know what I'm saying? It's because there's plenty of good ways to do sales. I'm not saying the way that I do sales is the best way to do it, but I've never cared about selling. I do not give a shit if I close. My job is to solve a problem. It's like a chess game when I go into the conversation. It's like, okay, I know that they need this. How do I find out what they need and how do I fix it? And if I can't fix it, I'll tell you straight to your face. Like, I don't have it. I'm sorry. You want a minivan. We only sell Corvettes. You're going to have to go up the street. I'm not going to try and put a mom with 4 kids into a fucking 2-door. And there's plenty of guys that would. You know what I mean? There's guys that would try and set that shit up. I'm just not that guy. And so when I get on the phone, it's really just sorting out pain points and then trying to figure out where to move the chess pieces to get them to kind of get back into understanding that they have to act. Yeah, that was doing that repeatedly. And there wasn't anybody else in the office that could replicate it. Didn't matter how much they saw it, heard it, played it back. It was something no one else could do. And so it was fun.
Yeah, but I could see it would be hard to replicate because you're a very unique individual in the way that you see the perspective of solving problems versus so many people kind of think about the sale and the transaction and the money, where you're thinking literally it is all about solving a problem. Wherever you're at, if we can get you from there to the thing that you want or out of the thing that you don't want, like this is it. This is all it comes down to. And it's one of the things, like I said, I really respect about you is your ability to just be a straight shooter, ask the right questions.
Yeah.
You're very, very intelligent. I mean, you've told me some crazy stories. We've had the pleasure of chatting on a number of different occasions, but you've thought through a lot of how to think for individuals who have a hard time thinking for themselves to help them see the path to the desire that they want. And as you said in your story, it's like, hey, you want Christmas presents. Fantastic. What is the fastest way to get you the thing that you want? It's filing this thing. So like if you can get them to give you that extra $100, boom, you're in. Now you got a whole $500 credit card. Turns out I probably got an opportunity to help you get that too, because I know you're that kind of guy.
Yeah, it was interesting. And like that job tug at your heartstrings sometimes, because there's a lot of scams that run. And you talk to elderly people that were on Match.com and got taken by somebody for 2 years, where they were paying for bills and credit card stuff and whatever, and they never ended up meeting them. It's just wild. And the deeper you get into stuff, it sours you on society. You're like, some dude really went on to Match.com, went and matched with a 68-year-old lady that lives in Minnesota, and for the last 2 years has been like, I need clothes. I want, you know what I mean?
I mean, the Tinder swindler story exists for a reason, brother. Yeah. It's crazy. Wild. But that's, you know what? That is one of the things that I love sales, and sometimes sales kind of gets a bad rap because of those individuals who find a way to manipulate or take advantage of other people. And one of the things I often talk about on this show is kind of the misconceptions of sales or sales representatives. Is there any that you see would be like one of the biggest misconceptions that you've had to deal with in some way or another, and kind of like how you've dealt with it yourself?
So I've been in a lot of different industries, and I think the industry that you're in really dictates what the dominant sales style looks like. There's a reason why used car salesmen get viewed at in the way that they do, because it's a consistent thing. That's what you would run into if you ran into a car dealership. If you were trying to buy gold bullion or whatever, the sales guys, there was a certain way that those guys would do it. And it's because they all learn from each other. So, you get a guy that's successful selling cars. Next thing you know, he's training dealerships filled with people on how to do sales his way. And the problem with all of that is not everybody talks like you. Not everybody presents information the same way that you do. And they can't replicate your tone or your cadence even. So if you're going in there and you're teaching before I get into this, I'm going to use alpha and beta just because people have a general understanding of the term. But betas can sell. I've had very strong beta women as salespeople that smash everybody, but their sales style is organically different. And so their approach, if you get somebody to come in that wants to coach them an aggressive way of selling, you're going to destroy them because they can't do it. And you're teaching them a philosophy that they can't latch onto or even apply. When you're going to go and coach somebody, you can talk to them about different approaches, but every salesperson is going to have a different way of laying it out. And so I've always been more of probably like a storyteller. When someone walks into an appointment, whether you're doing roofing sales, home remodeling stuff, a car thing, the first thing you do is establish your company story piece. Have you ever been here before? No. Do you know anything about our business? No. Before we do anything, let's just sit down really quick, and I want you to know who we're dealing with. We've been around since such and such. We've won these awards. We do this, this, and this. We're most known for this, blah, blah. Do you have any questions? No. I just established prestige, right? So now they're familiar with the brand. The next thing is fact-finding. Why are you here? What do you need? What do you think we have that solves your problem? Now they're going to give me all the bullets that I need to understand what they're looking for and how to solve a problem. So if it's a car, you get the sales guys that walk around the car and they're like, and these are rear view mirrors. Like, no shit, dude. Like, all of them have them. It's fucking has to have it legally. But like, they want to do this feature benefit pitch.
Yeah.
But they do it to everything. All the turn signals, the chairs, whatever. You can cut all of that. I guess to make that relevant, when I moved to Phoenix to work in a gym, there was this long ass script that everybody had to learn in order to sell memberships. And when someone would walk in, they would get shown the racquetball courts. Like, if you don't play racquetball, do you give a shit about racquetball courts? Of course not. Why am I going to stand there for 5 minutes and talk to you about racquetball courts? I'm not. But no one's asking any of those questions prior to go in. And so when you get into sales situations and people want to pitch non-sales people on how to sell, they give them stuff like tours to go through it, because they know if they're saying all those things, they're crossing off all the things and they're doing all the marks, but they don't let them be themselves. The one thing I hate the most is the fact that most sales coaches, managers, business owners, they try and get one type of salesperson in their place to sell their product this certain type of way. I hate that more than anything. And so I guess I was going to say, to circle back to your original question, like, I don't think there's one thing or one style or whatever that really bothers me. It's just the fact that businesses try and spin people to sell a certain way based on how they think it works.
Damn, that's so good too, because it's a lot of what I talk about, within my community and really in the book that I put out. Is like, my style is not going to necessarily work for you. There may be some things that you can take from it that will, you can incorporate in your own way, but there's no way that you can create a carbon copy salesperson and have them be as effective as the guy who trained them. It's just not possible. What happens is sometimes a sales trainer trains someone and that person goes out and they get that development bug and they start learning from like a couple different trainers. Like, oh, I learned from Jordan Belfort and I learned from this guy and I learned from this guy. And hey, man, I don't want to turn out like that guy, so I'm definitely not going to do that part of it. However, the value of that is I learned to ask more questions, right? And I'll never forget, I paid like 10 grand for sales training one time. And these guys wanted me to learn all these scripts and do all this stuff. And like, I was already relatively successful in sales, doing multiple six figures a month. I was just trying to find, like, what is that 1% difference? You know what I learned? 10 grand, ask more questions, ask better questions. That was like my whole big takeaway from the whole thing.
It's wild too, because you go to all these things and they repackage it. But yeah, the thing that people don't understand, and I don't think enough sales coaches like focus on this as a topic, but every conversation is a sale. Either someone's buying what you're saying or they're not. And some of the best salespeople in the world are some of the best liars on the planet. And it's because they'll tell a story and everyone will eat it up and they'll sell their product. Now, whether or not there's integrity behind it that would allow them to collect money a second time, that's a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is it believable? And so when I would sit down with people that are afraid of sales, is I would just ask them, take your job away from all of this. If someone came up and asked you about what we do, how would you explain it? And they'll be like, oh, well, and so how come you can talk about it that easily if it's your mom? Why can't you say that to Susan, who called? Well, because, I got to sell her something. You don't have to do anything. You just need to make her understand what's going on. They're going to buy or they're not going to buy. Because if you hard sell somebody, they're calling the 800 number after you hang up and canceling. Because they'll go through the whole process of paying before they'll tell you no. But they know that they can get Kevin on the phone that will give her money back. So she's not going to say no to you. She'll pay. And that's what you get for, not buttoning up. But the thing about it is, it isn't that. It's you're calling us because you've heard that we can solve your problem. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And, what are your biggest reasons that you need to get this done? Well, thanks. But that's it.
Ask the questions.
There's
They'll
nothing
give you
more
what you
to it.
need. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I love it too, because people love, sales guys love to just talk. They want to overcome every objection before it's brought up, because if they just steamroll you, then you have no questions. Never worked on me, but
I'm going to have to definitely make that one of my clips, because that's something that I absolutely hate. And I try not to use the word hate often, but it is something that really grinds my gears, is when someone just wants to keep telling me, like you said, the feature benefits thing. It's like, I don't care. Like, I already knew when I came into this conversation whether I was buying or not, and you're simply here not to fucking fumble the bag, dude. I can't tell you how
like,
many
bro,
times
I'm never going to push
out.
this button.
Yeah. I'm sure you're the same way. You've probably gone in, like, cash in hand, ready to buy something, and the guy was just an idiot, and you're like, you know what? Out of principle, I'm not buying from you. I'm going to go down the street and spend more time or whatever.
Well, and so you see me normally. I'm usually wearing like a $6 V-neck and some old ass basketball shorts and some slides. I just like that's normally what I wear. I don't get dressed if I don't have to, because what's the point? When I bought my McLaren, I bought it from BMW of Arlington. I was driving, so I used to have rental cars for some of my staff who didn't have cars. I would let them use them, and I rented them through a service. And so I went and picked one up because we had to return it. The front end lip was destroyed. I mean, it was a Ford Focus, a white one. So I show up to BMW of Arlington. Yeah, so I show up to BMW of Arlington in this Ford Focus, looking like I'm homeless, and I'm standing outside of this like glass like display room or whatever that has an i8 in it, an NSX, and this McLaren, and like the door's locked. No one's in there. There's just 3 cars, and you can see them. So I was like, okay, I must need to go inside and whatever. So I walk in the used car side. Absolutely nobody pays any attention to me. And I didn't walk the lot. I walked straight up to this room where their 3 most expensive cars they had were locked up. And no one was talking to me. So like I walk through the whole used car area. I get into the new car area. No one wants to talk to me in there either. And like I didn't have my bag with me. I was holding onto my phone, and I had my bank approval letter folded up behind my phone in my hand. So I'm literally there to buy a car. I have my loan done, and no one wants to talk to me. So I just sat down in the lobby of the new car side. I just sat down on a couch. It took almost 40 minutes, and it was a finance guy. A finance guy came up and asked, he's like, has anyone helped you? I'm like, no one will even make eye contact. I was like, do I really look that broke? Like, I was like, I understand, like, I'm not dressed up, but no one else is in here. I'm obviously don't work here because no one would hire me. And the guy's like, what are you here to do? I'm like, I want to buy the McLaren. And he was like, the one out there? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, did you go online? I'm like, no. Like, I saw you guys had it on the lot. I drove here. Like, I'm already approved for a loan. Like, who do I need to talk to? And the guy's like, well, I'll sell it to you. So I did my deal to buy the car without a sales guy. I went straight to finance. And because I dealt with Bank of America, it was an easy deal for him to do. And so the guy was like, I just want to apologize. Like, I can't believe no one even greeted you. I was like, the chick sitting at the front desk didn't even say hi. Jeez. And I was like, it was a very weird experience. I mean, it was 2:00 in the afternoon on like a Tuesday or something like that, which it's not like sale day Saturday. And by the time, or when the finance guy got it, the whole deal was done in maybe 20 minutes. And I had to come back and get the car. So like I bought the car, I folded it all up, and I went back and got in the Ford Focus and drove home. and I had to go back and get it 3 days later. And I ended up getting an email from like the sales manager who wanted me to like recount my experience, because he's like, I'm going to go back and watch the video of the lobby. He's like, because this is unusual. And I was like, okay. So I like wrote it up and sent it in. He ended up sending me an apology. They gave me a coupon for like a free oil change. And I was like, no offense, but I'm not taking my McLaren to BMW to get an oil change. Like, and he got it on trade. Like, that's how they wound up with it. The guy bought an M8 and traded in his McLaren, and that's why they had it. But anyway, that was the fucking gnarliest story that I could tell about trying to buy anything. You know, like, I went there specifically for that car.
It's crazy how hard salespeople will work to not make money, and business owners in general. Like, I'll never forget when we were getting ready to move from Ohio to Texas. We had put our house on the market, and there was some foundation. I mean, it was Ohio. There was cracks in the foundation. It's just normal wear for tear, you know. And I was calling foundation companies to get estimates on what, you know, repairs or what it would cost. I called 6 foundation companies. Not one of them responded to me. Not one person wanted to come. The people who bought our house spent $29,000 on foundation repair. they were just looking for, hey, who's the person that we should use? I'm like, I don't know. I'll call around. I called 6 people. No one called back. Which is another reason Call the Damn Leads exists, because it's fucking insane that people will not call people that they need to sell.
So we're going to get shitty weather next week. And I redid all of my landscaping in my house. And it's all like palm trees, hibiscus plants, bamboo shoots. Like, it's all tropical. And I have a lawn maintenance company. They do my lawn one day, and then they do my landscaping on the second. So I called him today, and I was like, are you guys planning on coming to, like, winterize my landscaping? And she was like, well, do you think you need it? I'm like, yeah. I was like, it might snow. And she's like, oh, like, most people have, like, hardy plants. I'm like, can you pull up my app? Like, do you guys have information on what's at my house? And she's like, I'm sure we have it somewhere. I'm like, okay. I was like, how much would it cost for you guys to come and winterize it? And she's like, well, I'm not even sure. I'm like, so this isn't a service that you offer? And you guys are a landscaping company? And she's like, yeah. She's like, if you would have time to do it yourself, it may be quicker. I was like, what? I was like, I'm card in hand. Like, tell me how much it will cost and I'll pay you. And she's like, I'm going to need to find out. I'm like, so you don't even know how much it costs to winterize plants? It was the weirdest conversation. And they're not like a small, like, cash-only company. Like, they're big. And I was like, I got off the phone just really confused. God, because I didn't know what was happening. And, like, I haven't gotten a call back yet. So, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, maybe my plants are just going to die. I don't know.
Well, she made it very clear that you need to do it yourself, Jacob. Like, duh.
Yeah, because I've got all this free time to go and wrap plants in plastic. Like, it's like, if I could do this myself, then I could easily blow the leaves out of my yard that you guys do every 2 weeks, too. It's like, what's the hurdle? And she's like, well, the owner's out of town. I'm like, okay. You have to ask his permission to winterize. What? And I mean, this stuff happens more often than So to actually cap that off, I've been building the same pool in my backyard now for like 2 years. It's probably a $70,000 landscaping job to do the backyard. I've had 3 people come out to measure it, take all the CAD drawings and stuff I have, and tell me they're going to give me a bid to ghost me.
What the fuck? What is wrong with people?
Dude, I don't know.
What is wrong with them?
And like, I have all of the turf guys that are putting turf in. They can't install the rest of the turf until landscaping is done. So I have the turf guy blowing me up because he wants to do his job. I can't get anyone to put the plants in. Yeah. And it's like Covington, which is like a big ass company. I tried to get him to do the front and the backyard, which would have been, I don't know, probably 130 grand. She was like, we're 7 months out. I was like, what? How are you guys 7 months out? She's like, well, that isn't really even that big of a project. I go, for a house it is. Like, I understand this is not a 70-acre apartment complex, but like, that's a big job for a house. And she like got an attitude. I was like, she copped an attitude about it. And I was like, never mind. I just won't use you guys. It was a fucking wild experience.
Jacob, one of the things that I'm glad and grateful that you were able to find some time to be here with us today, man, because I know you're a busy guy. I know you've got clinics and companies all over the country that you're managing. You got staff all over the place. So I wanted to thank you for taking the time to come on and share some stories and just be a good, wholesome human that I just really appreciate, because the way that you approach sales and the way that you approach entrepreneurship, it's refreshing. And if anybody is here listening and they enjoyed your stories and they're looking for some more straight shooter action, again, man, you're one of my favorite online trolls, if I'm just being 100% honest with you, because everything that you say comes with facts and receipts to back it up. So like, you don't bullshit. What's the best way for them to find you on social media or come check you out?
I was going to say, who else do you know that's gotten blocked by baller busters by correcting them? I think I'm the only one.
You're at the top of that list, sir.
Everything social media is just my first and last name. My TikTok, my Instagram. I have a Twitter. I couldn't tell you the last time I sent a message on it, but it's there. In fact, I think the profile picture on my Twitter is from like 2012.
It was back when it was still Twitter and not X.
Yeah, I had no beard. I think I'm wearing like big ass shades. Yeah, I look like I should be on Jersey Shore.
I was gonna say, was it your club days? Where you're lighting up a cigar with the $100 bill or some shit right in there?
The number of $100 bills I burned is bad. It's not. And why was that cool? Why didn't somebody stop me? Like, bro, what are you doing? Like, that's dumb. And it's also fucking illegal. You can't burn legal tender. You go to jail.
Statute of limitations, dog. We're good. Nobody's going to see this and be able to do shit about it now. Statute of limitations. No, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with me, man. I'm, again, grateful to know you, to see you, and have the pleasure of watching your growth and your journey. And certainly, if you guys are listening to this, go check him out. Go follow Jacob. His stuff is hilarious. He is always just, not only is he shooting it straight, but he does bring a ton of great mindset and reframes on perspective of life and business and all of the things that we go through as sales professionals and business owners. Now, Jacob, before we get out of here, I always like to ask, man, because sales is the greatest opportunity in the world, it literally will take anyone from any background and give you an opportunity to change your life. Since there's someone new coming in every day, and I'm hoping they're listening to this episode today, if you could give that person one piece of advice to be successful in sales, what would it be?
Just understand that sales is just a successful conversation. You know, if you've at one point in your life have convinced your group of friends that you guys need to go to dinner at this specific place that you want to eat at, and you probably figured out that your friend likes good martinis. So you're going to tell them, like, hey, they have a chocolate martini that you should try. Now you can check the box off and say, okay, I got this person in my corner. They're willing to go because they know what they're getting. And when you're doing that communication to basically solve the thing that they would want the most out of the situation, that's all sales is. You're just doing it on a one-to-one basis. You have something. They've already opted that they understand that they would need something like that. You just need to close the gap on how understanding what their problem is. And you didn't know, first off, that your friend liked chocolate martinis until you spent time talking to them and being around them to uncover that. So when you're starting your conversation, you're just finding out things that are important to them. And then once you understand what's important to them, it's easy for you to draw a direct parallel between something that your product or service does and the things that are important to them. And if you can match all of them on a one-to-one basis, the conversation just then becomes about price point. And I'll tell you this, the last point I'll make. There is no such thing as a price that is too high. Because the only person that's afraid of your price is you in your head, because they don't know what it is yet. So don't ever be afraid to drop a big number and just shut up, because you don't understand where they are, what they've shopped for, what value looks like to them. And until they respond to your initial price drop, there's no reason to discount. There's no reason to tell a story before you drop the number. There's no reason to do service and product comparisons to the market. Just give them the price and then react to what their response is. Don't build yourself up going into a price drop. No one cares that much.
Ooh, that is absolutely a gem, sir. Do not sell out of your own pocket. Do not worry about the price. I absolutely love that advice. It is something that I know I personally had to learn along the way. And at each level, that number changes. You get used to asking for $100, then you get used to asking for 1,000. And before long, you're like, yeah, man, it's going to be 100 racks. I'm going to send you the wire instructions. Let's go. It is fucking a gem, sir. Well, again, I can't thank you enough for being here. If you guys are listening and you got something of value today, if you laughed, if you cried, if you realize there's some things that you need to do, maybe some people you need to call back in your business, share this on social media, tag us at Call the Damn Leads, at Jacob Stahler. Let us know you enjoyed this. And if you have a crazy sales story, if you want to come in, you want to shoot the shit, you want to have a good time with us, head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your information. We'll get connected. We'll have you on the show, because this is literally the greatest industry of all time. We get to have fun. We get to make money. We get to do cool shit. There is nothing better on the planet. You guys know what to do. Get out there, call the damn leads. We'll see you on the next one.